Let's now here see some examples of feminist critical discourse analysis, which as a result would help us in doing feminist critical discourse analysis on our own. I have picked an example from a study conducted by Lazar 2018 and was published in a very popular book, Critical Discourse Studies, in 2018. In this study, a feminist critical discourse analysis focused on some instance or the discourse about sexual violence against women. And the case which has been picked up was a very popular internationally publicized case which happened in somewhere in 2012 and is known as Delhi rape. It happened in India. On December 2012, 16 December 2012, a 23 years old physiotherapy student was sexually assaulted by 6 men on her way back to home when she was coming back after watching a movie with one of her friends. And she was attacked by 6 people when she was traveling in the bus, and she was assaulted, and she couldn't sustain the injuries which happened to her during that assault, and she died after a couple of weeks. It was a shocking incident, and it was brought forward by the mainstream media and was covered throughout the world. That's why this became a very popular, in other words, a notorious incident. 3 years onwards from this incident, there was a very popular documentary made, India's Daughter, and this was supposed to be casted throughout the India and across the world, but Indian courts stopped its filming. It's being aired in the media, in cinemas, because there were some objectionable remarks by one of the culprits in the documentaries, and based on that, its filming was stopped. The data of the analysis includes the statements of one of the interviewed rapists and others in the documentary, some statements by some important public figures reported in the news stories following the Delhi case. There were 2 aims, according to Lazar, of this study. Number one, to unpack the dominant gender and sexual ideologies at work, which intersect with other cultural or patriarchal norms in various cultures. So, to look into various gender ideologies which work in that time India and how that was reported. And then it also focused on, in line with other series of previously conducted studies, to see victim blaming and perpetrator mitigation, which function as a transcultural phenomena. It's not restricted to one culture only, rather it travels from one culture to another, which shows a kind of international or transcultural need for reformation in such ideas. Victim blaming can be defined as blaming the victim, and it is associated with constructions of respectability rooted in social and cultural moods. It is assumed, ये समझा जाता है कि ख़वातीन क्योंकि ज़्यादा काबिल इज़्ज़त हैं तो उनको कुछ फंक्शंस परफॉर्म करने चाहिए और कुछ नहीं करने चाहिए, और इस तरह का डिस्कोर्स क्रिएट करके ये क्रिएट किया जाता है कि जो भी ज़्यादती उनके साथ हुई है वो किसी हद तक अगर जायज़ नहीं तो एक हादसाती ज़्यादती थी, क्योंकि ख़वातीन ने खुद भी अपने रोल को ट्रांसग्रेस किया है. दिस इज़ व्हाट वी कॉल द कंस्ट्रक्शंस ऑफ रिस्पेक्टेबिलिटी और विक्टिम ब्लेमिंग. In the Delhi case, appropriate feminine conduct is signaled in adjectives and nominal phrases such as dressed decently, a woman should be dressed decently, a decent girl, a respected lady, and a girl of respect, which in fact rehearse well-worn cross-cultural binary of sexual stereotypes, especially about women. The data reveals that Indian women's respectability is tied to regulated access to public spaces and viewed vis-a-vis traditional cultural norms. So Their respectability can only be adhered to, can be maintained, can be secured if they follow a regulated access to public spaces and not by their own freedom. Rather, they need to look when they should go out and when they should come back. In other words, as we speak, उन्हें घर से कब जाना चाहिए और कब नहीं जाना चाहिए, उन्हें इस चीज़ का ख्याल रखना चाहिए. अगर वो ऑड टाइम्स पे बाहर जाएंगे तो उनके लिए रिस्क है, एंड द सोसाइटी एंड लॉ इज़ नॉट रेडी टू प्रोटेक्ट इट if this is something which is conveyed implicitly. Then transgression of either, they break down regulated access to public spaces, or they break their traditional cultural norms. Transgression of either leads to victim blaming, suggesting that the victim brought the attack on herself. A familiar "she had asked for it" trope. This is kind of stuff which is very shocking sometimes when you look at it from a moral, political, or even from a cultural perspective. Regulated access to public spaces takes the form of a curfew imposed tacitly upon Indian girls, especially in this case, and women, which ranges from the evening to the early hours of the morning. That means they should not, ideally speaking, based on such unannounced curfew, should go out of their homes or their places after evening and not before the morning. In our society, for example, this comes a statement from the lawyer of one of the perpetrators of this crime. In our society, we never allow our girls to come out from the house after 6:30 or 7:30 or 8:30 at maximum in the evening with any unknown person. So this was emphasized that that the women who lost her life, who were victimized in this case, probably herself transgressed a cultural norm in which she was not allowed to get out of her home or her place after 8:30. And this was the bound which was set by the men in the society. It's not written in law that women cannot get out of their homes after 8:30. Rather, this was emphasized based on some kind of cultural tradition कि हमारे culture में ऐसा ही होता है. Then we got other example from one of the convicted culprits. A decent girl won't roam at 9 o'clock at night. And that means if she roams at 9 o'clock in night, she should be punished in such a way. Such a sorry excuse for such things, but this is how the mitigation of crime sometimes can occur when such statements get social approval. Then another statement by a very powerful lady herself. She was a former Delhi chief minister, and she was quoted a similar statement in relation to a similar case in which a woman was assaulted sexually when she was coming back from her work. And what the former Delhi chief minister said, all by herself till 3 a.m. at night in a city where people believe, you shouldn't be so adventurous. I mean, you shouldn't dare to come out of your work even or go back to your home from your work at 3 a.m. And this was by saying that some kind of mitigation of perpetrators or their crime happens. In addition to the time regulation, access to public spaces for women is controlled by the requirement to be supervised or chaperoned. That means that women should not come out alone. उन्हें घर से अकेले नहीं निकलना चाहिए, बल्कि उनके किसी बहुत करीबी रिश्तेदार को या ऐसे बंदे को जिस पे वो ट्रस्ट कर सके, उसको साथ होना चाहिए. दिस इज अनदर excuse which is provided to the perpetrators of such crimes. Then there is another element which can be focused to look into discourses about violence against women is perpetrator mitigation. Even when the perpetrator's culpability, their crime, is acknowledged, is clearly proven, some kind of discourse is created to term such crimes in different ways. Even the horrific crimes of rapes and very serious sexual assaults can be termed as some kind of tragedy, an incident, or an accident. as it happened in this case. One of uh, the culprits named it or said, I can't say why this accident happened. I mean, this is just an accident. So this should be termed seriously, more seriously, rather than being dubbed as incident or accident. And when the mitigation of crime or the criminal happens, there is always some kind of re-lexicalization in which new terms or milder terms are used to pronounce or to comment about such crime. Then sexualizing rape is another way in which perpetrators' culpability is downplayed. What we mean by it is dubbed as some kind of basic human need, a kind of emotional outburst, and it is discussed in a way which makes it more entertaining than commenting on the heinous nature of such crimes. So there could be multiple ways in which there could be reshifting of victim blaming. A victim herself can be blamed for such things, and there could be discourses also uh, about uh, uh, about the recontextualization of the crime that result into the mitigation of the actual sensitivity of the crime. Critical discourse analysts in future might focus on such things, and there could be multiple other perspectives also. But to sum this up, we can say that discourses about violence against women can be another purposeful area for researchers in critical discourse studies.